Well, how does it affect when we have multiple groups of people focusing on different things? Like, for example, you mentioned the cabal.
Mm,
Got people that are totally unaware of the cabal. We've got people that um, believe there's a war on with the cabal, and we have people that have advanced to a point where they don't have the cabal in their awareness, particularly because they see them as already have been destroyed. So, how do those different streams of consciousness work together?
I think a good analogy might be to take a multi generational family. If you imagine a family that's relatively well adjusted, there's no abuse or really deep karma, but each person in the family has a different perspective on what the family is. So the 12-year-old sister, or the baby in someone's womb, or the great grandmother all see a different facet of the family. And my experience of the family is not the same as the family. That's just my experience of it. So the earth is a place where there's freedom to have all these different perspectives. And in the same way that a human who may be ill is still whole, these people who choose different jobs, a banker or a, taxi driver, um, there's no conflict between those two roles. The, the grandmother will see her grandchild grow in consciousness and awareness, but the child is not aware of itself growing in consciousness and awareness. She sees that as already being complete, as she has imagination and understands her family from a perspective of wisdom, whereas the child is busy focusing on everything they pick up or taste or see walk by them in very close quarters. The baby is only aware of things very close to it. And this can be an analogy for people who are very unconscious in their daily life, that are not aware of the cabal. And the grandmother would be the perspective of one who sees it as transitory.
Mm-hmm.
The world is bigger than the cabal and it will not last forever because nothing does.
Mm-hmm.
Those who see the need for fight have their role to bring awareness to others to step out of the way and not hurt themselves, or to stop someone from beating their wife, or or pulling their sister's hair. So all those roles are necessary in a large family, especially where not everyone has chosen to be wise and kind. Some have chosen to experience not having to worry about that, or if karma plays in, to experience what they did to someone else. And we don't know from that perspective who on earth is experiencing the pain inflicted by the cabal because of their own karma. There's no way to know. Each
Mm-hmm.
person knows their own wisdom, but there's room for all. And it will play out as karma does. So you can see I'm unconcerned.
So each group, they just simply have their own role, their own perspective, and um,
It is what it is.
hmm.
We can't ever change someone else's perspective, as hard as we might try, unless they were so inclined. But then is that us changing their perspective, or is it their perspective changing naturally? So I see that the cabal had a stronger influence until recently, because its energy of control and coercion and pain was in alignment with so many people's own experience of control and suffering. And as each person heals or finds balance or compassion or tolerance, it it shifts it shifts it they're not, suddenly not compatible. So if you envision an infinite number of versions of Earth, infinite, no, not a big number, but no end to the number. If I succeed in creating more happiness in my life, I suddenly now live in a version where there's more of that around me. But if I stay in suffering, then my world matches that instead. The probable Earths are infinite, and the lesson from this time is an exercise in focusing consciousness and self-determination and deciding where we want to go instead of having it planned out for us with no change.
Mm-hmm.
So we're experiencing what looks like a transformation, but it's also could be seen as a movement out of those energies in pure terms of pure energy. And at each moment point we create, that's a Seth term, at each moment point we create our whole world. The big bang happens from inside each moment.
Mm-hmm.
And the aspects of each consciousness on earth that desire this movement towards peace and unburdening will work together to create that experience. And that is the collective experience, the collective consciousness. But those that wish to continue experiencing lessons that are have a denser energy also just continue doing that as well. So I always say that it's the most important thing is for me to choose the reality that I want. Part of that is in service to others who need or appreciate assistance in strengthening their focus. So it can be perceived as something that is like a path or a university course or a progression, but it's really just a choice in the moment that gains momentum. It's very difficult for someone who's incredibly happy and secure to suddenly become miserably unhappy. It doesn't happen that easily. So the gravitation is a magnet of magnetism as you create the energy of love that brings you more happiness, and it just builds, it becomes a stronger magnet that attracts more of the same. And so the perception is that there is then less cabal influence, but it's true from one perspective, but it's also from each individual perspective, it's their own journey with their choice to experience more love and more expansion.
Thank you for sharing all of that.
Thank you for asking.